For our video today, I am going to show you how to make this stitch brush. Isn't that cool? To start this off, what you need to do is start with a square canvas. Just by hitting this plus symbol and hitting the square, you get yourself a nice little square canvas. The background isn't very important, but for now, let's just make it black. You can either make it black or make it transparent. So we're gonna make it black. We're gonna start with a rectangle because we want our stitches to look like rectangles. So I'm not gonna draw a rectangle. I already did that, and I made a little brush real quick to make this video go a little bit faster. So I'm just gonna go into my shapes real quick. So I'm just gonna get myself a little rectangle. I like this rectangle because it has rounded edges on it. So you're going to change your color to white. Now that we have our little rectangle, what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that our rectangle is white. Make sure that it is in the middle of the canvas. So I'm going to hit the move tool and I'm going to move it to the middle of the canvas. So I want to make it a little bit bigger. So now I have it in the middle of the canvas. I'm not exactly sure if this is important or not, but I kind of think that I am just copying the shape of it. So it really doesn't matter where it is in the canvas, but we just want to make sure that it's big enough and it fits inside this square. So we know that this is the size that we need to copy. So in order to copy it, you take 3 of your fingers and you slide down, boop, and then you're going to hit copy. So we just copied it. Now what we're going to do is we are going to find in our brush library our monoline brush. Why monoline, you might be thinking? I don't know, maybe it's because it's just the best brush that's in Procreate for drawing anything basic. It's the best brush. So in order to find that, because people are like, oh, I like the monoline brush, but I can't remember where I found it. It is in the calligraphy library. So go to calligraphy and there's monoline. So we found our brush. Now the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to swipe to the left and we're going to duplicate that brush. So now we know it's a duplication because it says monoline 1. So now we know that's our duplicated brush. I just like this brush because of the shape of it. It's square on either end and it's just a seamless brush, and it just has all the settings that you would need to create this stitch brush. So now we are going to edit our brush. So all we have to do that is to click on it. Okay, so now our first step is, remember we had copied our shape. So now we're going to have to paste it somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this option right here, which is called shape. So we're going to click on that. And then we have this circle because that's how this brush was made, is with a circle. So we're going to hit edit. And then we are going to click into this import area. We're going to click that. It gives you so many different choices. So you can import a photo, you can import a file, you can go through their source library that Procreate provides for you. But in our case, it actually gives us an option to paste it. So we're going to hit paste. And so there is our square that I took from the canvas. So now it's in a brush. Now make sure from this point that you hit done, because if you don't hit done, then it's just a memory and now you have to go and do it all over again. So hit done. Okay, you have to click it twice. It's weird, but just do it. So now from this point, we got our shape in there. We imported it, we pasted it, and we hit done. So now it's in there. This is what our brush is looking like. It may not look any different than what it was before. Now to make your brush look a little bit more different and make it start looking like stitches, what we're going to do first is we're going to go to our stroke path, which is this top one right here. So when we click on that, it gives us these different options. You got spacing, streamline, jitter, fall off. We're not going to worry about jitter and fall off or streamline. Streamline is exactly how I want it, so we're not going to touch that. We're going to touch spacing. So now we're going to make sure that the spacing is all the way up to the max. So when you do that, it's spacing out the shape. So that's exactly what we want. But I have noticed that some of these little rectangles are going this way instead of this way. To change that, we're going to go back into our shape. In case, I'm going to kick that scatter all the way down. And now we have a bit of a stitch look. Okay, so now it seems like really, really small. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna play around with this brush behavior, which is under the properties. And I'm just gonna kick this up a little bit higher. See, now we're starting to get our stitch here. And I'm gonna leave the minimum size where it was, which is kind of like at 2%. And then I have my max size at 169%. So if I draw it out, that's what it starts to look like. So there you go. Now, if you're satisfied with it, just to keep it on the safe side, hit done. And then we're going to edit just a little bit more. I just want to make sure that the settings that we put in there are saved. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you want to add a little bit extra to your brush, whereas you can go in here, which is the about brush. This is all the settings for the brush, who made it and all that good jazz. Procreate gives you the option of renaming your brush. So I'm going to rename my brush. I'm going to rename it as a basic stitch brush. And then I'm going to hit done. So I got my little basic stitch brush. So now I can change the color of this real quick. And I can play around with it. But I noticed it's still a little too big though. I'm gonna make it, you can make it small, but I feel like these stitches are too far apart. So I'm gonna go back into my brush and I'm gonna click it. Then I'm going to go into the stroke path. And I got my spacing is very high. So I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Because if you have it large, you see how the spaces are going further apart. And we're going to put the spacing down a little bit more so that the stitching is a little bit closer together. And then I'm going to hit done and I'm going to play with it a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. Okay. Another thing about this brush, and I went through all the settings. I cannot figure it out. If you guys have an idea as to why this is happening, in the beginning of my stitch, there is one block that is out of whack. So to combat that, what we're going to do is I'm going to go into my gallery real quick and I'm just going to get the reason why I wanted this stitch brush to begin with. I was making myself a little journal. And so I was like, oh, but it would be really nice if there was stitching around the edge here. So what I did was I was like, let me just make this brush and see what happens. So I'm going to play around with this. And so what I found that works, when you go and you're making your line, you are aware, if you use Procreate, that if you make your line and you found that, you know, it's a little wonky, if you hold it down, that little square or that rectangle that was a little out of whack, goes away. See, it's out of whack here, and now it's gone away if you hold it down. So that's how this brush works. All right, so now I have my brush, and let's say I'm like, oh my goodness, I have it over here in my calligraphy because that's where we duplicated the brush and we changed the brush. So let's say you want to take this brush and put it into a library. Now, even after the update, it was a little wonky as to taking your brush and putting it in a actual library. But what I found was, I'm going to get close for this. All right. So let's say I want to take this brush and I want to put it in my go-tos library. My go-tos library is a brush library that I use these brushes all the time. If I want to find this brush quickly and easily without having to go through all the libraries to find it, I put it in my go-tos. So you are going to hold it, and you feel like you want to go and just make sure that the thing goes gray. Guess what? It didn't appear in there. It went into the library below it. So now notice it says basic stitch brush. And so it's here, it's in the wrong library, even though the library that I wanted to go to went gray. So again, let's do it again, but we're going to put an extra step into it. We're going to hold it, and you see, I want to put it in the go-to library. I don't want to do that. Put it into the library above it. Guess what? If you go to your library that you wanted, the intended library you wanted it to go in, guess what? It's there. Don't know why. Just focus on getting it into a library that is above the library that you're intending to put it in. Makes absolutely no sense, but that's just how it works. If you want to know how it works, that's how it works. Don't know why. So in our brush creation, let's take this a step further. I'm going to duplicate this brush again. So we have two here. Now I'm going to click on it and edit it. So now I'm going to make this brush a little bit different. You can do this using the method that I just showed you, or you can use the source library. So you go into your shape, you hit edit, you hit import, and this is what was there already. So what I'm going to use now is the source library. And so you can scroll through and you can probably get a bunch, but you just want one shape. You don't want a million shapes, like something like this. That would be a little bit crazy. So you just want one shape. So I'm going to use this slim oval. You have the regular basic oval, or you have the slim oval. So I'm going to use this slim oval here. I'm going to click on it there. So now I'm going to hit done twice, and it changed it and makes it into like little P-shaped. And so in my opinion, I like that. I like the way it looks. If you want it to be further apart, make sure you go up to your stroke path and mess around with your spacing. Either go up or go down. So to make it further apart, you just go like this. If you want them to be closer, just go a little bit lower. So I think this is perfect for me. And I'm going to hit done, and look, I have my little brush here. But so I have my brush that is different from this brush. They are named the same thing. So again, we're going to go back into our brush. We're going to hit about brush, and we're going to change the name. I don't know. I'm going to actually change it to something like seed. I'm going to change it to seed stitch brush. And then I'm going to hit done, and then there you go. I renamed it to seed stitch brush. So there you have it. So I'm going to play around with that for a little bit. And again, hold it down and that little wonky rectangle will go away. Let me show you that close up. Got a little wonky one at the beginning. You hold it down, it disappears. Isn't that awesome? So you guys, I just wanted to do a really quick video on how to do this particular brush. I love playing around with it. I love playing around with Procreate and the different brush choices that they give you and the different options that they give you to help you in your creating process. I just love Procreate so much for this. So hopefully this video was helpful for you to be able to learn how to make your own little stitch brush. Do with it as you will. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.